What's good? We are here. I'm here with my co-host Chris Kern, and I'm so happy to be back. We are thrilled to resume our podcast, and we are starting it off with a great preview show for the 2024-25 season for the NBA. So welcome everyone.
Welcome. We're excited. Both of our teams, we got a lot to talk about. Exciting seasons, hopefully. They go better than last season for both of us. And we're just both excited for NBA basketball to be back. And we're just a week away, so can't wait to get started.
So, what do you want to start with the Sixers, and then we can transition into your Grizzlies?
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's start with the
Okay.
Sixers.
So let's start with the addition of Paul George. I'll give my thoughts first. I think you can give your thoughts.
Go for it.
So, I feel like this is a really unique, talented pickup for the Sixers, especially offensively. Paul George is going to be a very crucial addition when Embiid and Maxey are on the floor. He'll generate really great opportunities to make sure that everything is going well offensively. I feel like his jump shot is the perfect thing for the Sixers. Despite what injury he had in the last preseason game, but I'm really hoping that the jumper he has still is a great um, looks great. But I'm just really anxious to see what PG8 can do for the Sixers, and it should be interesting.
I'm super excited. I never even thought you call him PG8. It's just it's weird. I saw a clip yesterday, so I already knew he's number 8, but I didn't know that until yesterday. That was interesting.
Mhm.
But no, I think he's a perfect complement to Embiid and Maxey. Having three stars like that in an offense is always interesting. It can be tricky sometimes, but in the regular season, it's not much of a thing. And then I think in a playoff setting, they'll find their role by then. Because in the regular season, I mean, Embiid's going to sit out a lot of games. Probably won't play any back to backs. Like he'll probably play in the 50s, maybe. Like he's going to rest a lot. Paul George will probably rest some as well. Take it easy on him. But I think he's a great compliment on the wing. They needed that wing guy. They've had some wing scores who they've liked. Kelly Oubre's emergence last year was big. Um, they've added a couple other guys this offseason as well that we'll get
They
into in a
added
little bit.
Andre Drummond. They added Andre Drummond, Caleb Martin, uh, and of course Paul George. But
Yeah,
what
Paul.
are your thoughts on everything besides the Paul George news?
Yeah, so I like that they brought back Kelly Oubre. Really good move. I think he's a guy who really fit in well. They got Kyle Lowry's back, another big time move, a guy who played really well for them in the postseason. I wasn't expecting them to be able to bring both those guys back, but as it's two valuable role players. Caleb Martin, I think, a fantastic pickup. It's a kind of fit that they needed. My expectation is that he'll start. Um, I don't know if you'll learn more on that. I assume he will probably start with Paul George, and at the two, it'll probably be Oubre, would be my guess. But that could change as well throughout the season. But they just have a lot of depth. Eric Gordon, we all know what he can do. He's older now, but he's still a bucket getter and just a good bench scorer to have on your team. Whether he plays a bit heavy minutes off the bench consistently, we'll see. But they have some good depth there. They added KJ Martin from Houston. We'll see what kind of role he has, interesting role. And then Joshan Yabusele as well, in addition to Drummond in the
Mhm.
front court. Joshan will be able to play some four probably. We saw him for France. He was fantastic in the Olympics. Was really cool to watch him play in that setting. He's been in NBA before as well. He's done some good things, so really cool to see him back. And I think you'll be able to play some small ball five. So I think the front court with Drummond and Joshan, I think they'll be able to settle in behind Embiid And on the days he doesn't play it, I think they'll have what they need to get the job done on those days. So I'm just really excited. I think they're deeper than they've ever been coming into like the preseason and regular season.
Mhm.
Because like last year they weren't deep at all. Like they added Oubre and Lowry at some point throughout the season. I don't remember exactly when those moves happened. The Oubre situation was weird last year, but
Yeah. I think the contract extensions was Maxi and Oubre.
yeah, extending those guys was big. It's
Yeah.
just interesting, but they're deeper than they've ever like. I liked where they ended last season, but even in the playoffs, they felt like they needed another guy or two that they trusted.
Mhm.
They also, I mean, they added Buddy Hield last year, and Nick Nurse just didn't really trust him in the playoffs. So it's all when it comes
They
down
have
to it.
they have Ricky Council also.
I love Ricky Council. I don't know,
Yeah.
like, and I think from a regular season standpoint, I think he's a guy they're gonna be able to trust in the back end of that rotation. I don't know if he'll be in the normal rotation, but like when Paul George needs a night off, I think Ricky Council can step up and give you 20 minutes, and I think that's super valuable. And sometimes gets overlooked on teams, but especially on good teams with older guys, you need young guys who can step up and play big minutes on those nights. And I loved Ricky Council in college. He played at Wichita State local school. Then he played at Arkansas. I still remember I was at the game when he beat Kansas in a tournament a few years ago,
Oh yeah.
and he was fantastic. And I think he's developed a lot throughout his first season in NBA. And I'm excited for him. But there's just a lot of guys to be excited about, honestly. I don't, you're a Sixers fan, but I feel like in the past couple of years it's been like you've had Embiid and then you had Maxi's emergence, but like outside of those two, you didn't have many depth guys that you were like, okay, I like this guy, I like this guy. And like they're pretty deep and they'll find ways to get better and tinker with the roster throughout the season if they need to. So I think they're in a better spot like
Mhm.
preseason than they've been in 4 or 5 years probably.
What are your thoughts if Paul George is not a go come next Wednesday?
So I think they'll be okay because we talked about Caleb Martin and Oubre on the wing. I'm really interested to see who they would start. In addition, they could go Kyle Lowry because they
Mhm.
started him and Maxey together some last season in the playoffs. They could go Caleb at the 3 and go KJ at the 4, maybe. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Eric Gordon could get some minutes as well, potentially start. I mean, they have Reggie Jackson as well. That's in some role. So, like, they have options. I have no clue what they would do. I think they'd probably start KJ, but I
Mhm.
mean, you could go Eric or Gordon or Lowry. So, like, they have plenty of options. So, it's nothing to like be worried about long term. So, if they play a couple games start season without Paul George, they'll just we've seen Nick Nurse coach for a handful of years now, and he gets super creative with how he puts together his lineups and rotation. So no one's gonna be able to predict what he's gonna do in that first
Mhm.
situation without Paul George probably. But he'll go with who he trusts the most. And to start the season, he might just rock with Kyle Lowry a lot heavy minutes.
Yeah.
But they'll have to manage that. They'll have to manage his minutes as well throughout the season and Gordon. So like you shouted out Ricky Council, so I think they're in a really good spot.
Mhm. Let's move forward to your Grizzlies, and I know there's some really great expectations from the big man, rookie Sakidi, and I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no. We don't have to get too much into the past, but Zach Edey's a player me and you have talked about over the past few years a lot. Um, we're just going to move on from all that and just focus on the positives moving forward. He's gotten so
Shout
much
out,
better. He got so much
shout,
better over his college career, though.
shout out to John Brody.
John Brody, he probably won't ever tune into this, but if he does, John, we're talking about your guy. But no, he's just over the course of his college career, he got so much better, and we joked and were frustrated because we didn't like Purdue as much, but he was dominant.
Mhm.
His past couple seasons there, like it was impossible to really get a stop, and like for any team to like make plays guarding him, like, and we'll see how that looks at NBA level. Obviously, it's not going to be the same, but like last night in the preseason, he put up like he had 23 in like 17 or 18 minutes. He was super efficient, His his like sky hook was really good. His post moves. He's just a really good rebounder. He's going to be able to screen really well. And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the biggest question is going to be how does he defend? We've seen it. We've seen other bigs be able to succeed and play heavy minutes. And I think like from like a Grizzlies perspective, we compare him to Steven Adams, and super excited to see that. Just how him plays with Ja.
What role is he going to be in? Is he going to be coming off the bench?
He'll start definitely for sure. I don't think he'll finish games. I think they'll opt for probably Brandon Clark to finish games, but they have some options. They have less options to start the season because of some injuries we'll get into in a minute. But I think Zach Edey's definitely the starting center. I think you kind of set the tone, and with him and Josh and pick and rolls. And then I think saw some discourse on Twitter as people talking about, and I agreed with this a lot. But maybe pull him out and then like Zach Edey play some minutes without Ja and with the second unit. Because with Ja running the offense, you're not really going to look to post Zach Edey up a lot because you're going to play through Ja, obviously. So I think you get some minutes because one area of concern, especially with the injury start season, is where they're going to get offense from the second unit. Like, obviously, they'll get some Desmond Bane out there, and they have some other shooters and scorers. But having Zach Edey just – because there's not going to be many backup bigs who can guard Zach Edey that well. So I think he's going to have an advantage there. But definitely start. He won't play, like, in the mid-30s minutes, heavy starters minutes, because hopefully we have our depth and they perform well. I'm really excited to see what Brandon Clark can look like. Coming off his injury, seemed like have a good end of last year, good offseason. Super excited for him. And we saw he's been able to do some special things in the playoffs and some big moments for us. So I think him and Jaren are a really good complement as well. But just having that bruising center, a lot of guys can form. You find ways to succeed, and you have long careers for these guys. Like everyone's going to really be looking at Edey because he's National Player of the Year, like a big-time college player. But I'm super excited to see him, and we'll see how he holds up. Like he's big, he's dominant with his post moves. I think he's a really good fit with John Morant in the pick and roll, and like I don't know how you can guard that. Like if they can space the floor well and shoot the ball, like with Ja coming downhill and like Edey just kind of roll into the middle of the paint, like if you stop Ja, like he's just going to dump it to Edey for a wide open little shot. So it's going to be really interesting to see how teams defend that. And yeah, on the flip side, his defense was to pick and roll, and like he's probably be able to get exposed a little bit, but we'll see how this. But I think having Jaren behind him, one of the best defensive players, best shot blockers in the league, I think is going to help that a lot. And they'll just find. Also Marcus Smart, a former defensive player of the year as well. So like they have pieces to be really good defensively, even with that. With Edey maybe struggling a little bit in that role. So I don't think it's a big enough issue to talk about. Come playoff time, playoff rotations, how you play in the playoffs is so much different. But just from like a regular season getting started standpoint, I think they're in a really good spot with Zach Edey starting at center.
What are your expectations on the depth chart of the Grizzlies, surrounding the Grizzlies?
Really good. Definitely. You got the starting lineup. They'll start with Ja, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Jaren, and then we talked about Edey at center. So, like, it's pretty set. I really like the depth they have. When healthy. Brandon Clark, Santi Aldama in the front court. And then in the backcourt, we have Luke Kennard. Scottie Pippen just signed to a 4-year deal. He was on a two-way last year and two-way starting this year, but they went ahead and gave him that because they had 2 open roster spots, so they had to sign somebody in the next few days. So they just went ahead and elevated him. He'll be the backup point guard. They'll do some different things with Marcus Smart and Desmond Bane running point as well, but Scottie Pippen will play some minutes, and that's super exciting. But then, Luke Kennard's a really good shooter. We have John Conchar. He's a guy who can kind of do a little bit of everything. Jake LaRavia, a couple of those guys won't necessarily play heavy minutes. But the biggest thing is Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams. Those two are fantastic young guys. And just their emergence last season, they look like true two-way stars. Gigi Jackson's potential is all-star. Like he can be an all-star one day. Vince Williams, one of the best defenders in the game. He improved offensively. He's a great shooter. Former undrafted guy out of VCU. He just gets after it. he should be back in a couple weeks. Gigi Jackson's probably out till Christmas-ish, which is unfortunate, but that'll be enough time for him to get situated, get comfortable, get him in a role before the playoffs or anything, so it's not a serious concern. It just kind of sucks that he'll miss out on a couple months of playing games, but I think they're in a good spot to kind of manage that as well. And rookie Jalen Wells has impressed in the preseason, so I'll be interested to see if he gets many minutes. I think he might, especially with Vince Williams out, but we'll just have to wait and see kind of how Taylor Jenkins manages his rotation. But I'm really excited to see where they go with that.
So let's flip the script to Karl Anthony Towns going to the Knicks. And this is a very interesting move from a Minnesota perspective, getting rid of a guy with a high experience offensively. And what are your thoughts on the Knicks getting him and playing and being able to play with Jalen Brunson and getting rid of Dante DiVincenzo and everything else?
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's go Knicks perspective first, and then we can get it over from the Timberwolves side. So from the Knicks perspective, it's really interesting. I felt like, I mean, I get moving off from Julius Randle, and I mean Towns is he's a better offensive player, maybe a better fit for them. But it's really interesting. I don't think another center, like a guy like Towns, had a huge need for them. Mitchell Robinson's injury, they needed another guy at the 5. But I thought Hartenstein was perfect for them. Watching them in the playoffs, like Tibbs loved Hartenstein, so that's a bit moving him on from him's a big loss. And him and Towns are just different players. But I think the toughness on the wing. Bridges and OG Anunoby are just tough dudes. They'll battle. So Towns can kind of play on the perimeter a little bit more. And it's just an interesting fit from Towns' perspective. I mean, he got used to playing with Rudy last year. He impressed me in that a little bit. But it was just tough. It's just weird to me, honestly. I'm excited. I think offensively he helps him a lot. But they're not too concerned. Like regular season, like he's going to help. They're going to score the ball. They have guys who can make plays defensively. But like DiVincenzo was so valuable for them as well. Like that's an underrated. It's been talked about a little bit, but like that's a huge loss. Like he was perfect next to Brunson, and I get it because they brought in Bridges. Like they feel like they didn't necessarily need him as much, but they were in such a good spot, I think, to continue the forward with that core and find different ways to get better. Now I think they're kind of, because Karl Anthony Towns has a huge contract. Obviously, he's got to wait and see how this season goes. Karl Anthony Towns, he's not like he's an old guy. He can still get a lot better. And it'll be interesting to see how he mixes in and fits well. But, I mean, the Knicks have a really good team. And Tibbs and Towns are just an interesting match because Tibbs is really hard on his players. And we've all heard some of the stories with Towns from his day. But super excited to see him ball out with the Knicks. And I think they're going to be good. I just think expectations are a little too high for them, maybe, because I still don't think they're pushing the Celtics or maybe even some of the other top teams in the East. Personally,
do you think that they can push the Sixers at all?
I think those two are kind of in the same tier right now, because I don't see the Sixers yet in that tier as the Celtics, or it's basically just the Celtics and then a lot of other teams in their own tier. Like, I think the Cavs and Bucks, we'll get into the whole Eastern Conference picture later. But between the Sixers and Knicks, I think they're both two teams that could push the Celtics and could win the East, make the finals, and compete for an NBA title. But they're just – I think they're right on the same tier, honestly, between those two. It's just they gotta prove it to you. And I think the Knicks would have probably made the conference finals last year if healthy, but the depth is still, and it's a bigger issue this year, I think, than last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they compete. But I like where the Sixers are at more than the Knicks, because I think the Sixers have pathways to get better and make moves to get better if they need, and I don't know if the Knicks have as much walkway there.
Yeah. What do you think about the Knicks starting the season against Boston?
That's a tough one. I mean, he'll get right into it to start it off, being big matchup to start the season. I mean, you just gotta rock and roll with it. See who gets it done. It's a good test for them to start the season. You can't overreact to any one game, especially in October, because I mean the playoffs are in like 6 months. But it's still fun to have these big matchups and see where you stack up, because the Celtics on ring night, they're not going to want to lose. They're not going to lose. I'd be shocked if the Knicks pulled that off. So it's just a fun matchup though, and I mean the Knicks have the athletes on the wing, and it'll be interesting to see how Towns fits. The Celtics have some injuries in the front court, I believe. I don't know exactly how the line's going to look, but we'll see how Towns kind of fits in, because I mean he's got to be able to perform against the Celtics, so ultimately this move doesn't do what they intended. So we'll see how he matches up in a season opener for them. But it's also just a weird trade because it happened like right before training camp, like 2 days before training camp. And usually big moves like this, they can happen like late after free agency and stuff, but usually you get more than 2 days notice before training camp. But I think that they've adjusted well, so I think the Knicks are in a good spot to do what they need to do.
So we're moving right along to our playoff picks and award winners predictions. And how would you like to do this?
Let's go. You just want to go award by award, and then we'll both say it. Do you want to start with six man?
Yeah.
Sweet. I'll say mine first. I think we might have the same guy for this, but I have Dante DiVincenzo winning sixth man of the year. Do you have somebody different, or go ahead? You want to give yours, and then we can discuss?
Yeah. Sixth man of the year, I have Dante DiVincenzo also.
Dante. Yeah. I just think my only concern with this, I don't see how he doesn't win. I think he's going to be phenomenal in Minnesota. My only worry is if he starts too many games if he plays too well and works his way into maybe a starting lineup situation, or injuries can happen. But like I think he's the big favorite is Malik Monk to win it in Sacramento. He's obviously gonna have a big year, but I think Dante's going to be sensational in Minnesota, and I don't see him starting next to Ant and Conley. He could start a few games there if there's injuries, but I don't see that being a long-term thing. So I think Dante DiVincenzo is going to win sixth man of the year. Like, I am super high on him. He can really score the basketball. I think he's tough, and he can like handle the ball really well. I think he can run point guard for the second unit. He can play whatever role in the second unit they need him to do. And I think he's fantastic. He can play next to Ant. He can play next to Conley very well, and play next to the whole team. I think him and Gobert can do some nice things in pick and roll action. He played with Julius Randle last year, so maybe those two can get something going. I think this is the perfect spot for DiVincenzo to excel in, and I think he has a huge season, maybe the best of his career.
So let's move to the rookie of the year. Want to give yours first?
Yes, I do. I don't know. I don't know what I wrote down for this, but there was a couple this was a tough one. So I'm really curious to see who you pick as well. But I'm going to go with Zach Edey for Rookie of the Year. And I don't want it to seem like a biased Homer pick, but I think he's the safest pick.
I was just looking at the notes, and you picked...
Ignore the notes. I think I probably, if I wrote someone else down, it's Stephon Castle. But there's reasons for me to switch that.
Yeah, that's him.
There's good reasons for me to switch that.
Actually, what's funny about it is I picked Stephon Castle.
I love Castle. My worry is I don't know what his role is going to look like, and that's part of the reason I went to Zach Edey, because he's going to start for the Grizzlies, and even if he doesn't play great, he's going to look good a lot of nights just because of Ja and like playing with Ja. And I don't know if there's any other rookies you can look at their situation and be like, that dude's going to ball out every night. Like, Edey might have a bad game, but that dude's still going to end up with a double-double just because Ja gets some easy lobs. And I think it's going to be easier for him to excel than a couple other guys. I like Reed Shepherd in Houston, but their backcourt, I don't know if he's his pathway for minutes. But like Stephon Castle might be my favorite rookie in this class. I just like the way he handles the ball. I loved how he looked at UConn. Just he was dominant. He just looked like a pro out there. But I don't. He's because they signed the Spurs, brought in Chris Paul, so he's going to start. Devon Vassell, Keldon Johnson, like they have wings, so it's not a ton of minutes for him on the wing if they want to play next to Chris Paul. And the backup point guard, I think they really like Trey Jones, so I don't know if Castle is gonna. I just don't know how his minutes look to start the season. I think he's going to be good enough to where he can play some backup point guard. I honestly, he may not play a lot of point guard. I haven't followed this situation a lot, but I know he wanted to play point guard with a big thing coming out into the draft. But I love Stephon Castle, and I hope he excels. But Vecchi's definitely the safest pick because I just don't see a way he fails next with John Morant in the lineup and the rest of that Grizzlies team. And there's a lot of scenarios where Castle just is the third point guard. He doesn't play heavy minutes, and I think for all the other rookies, it's the same thing. But I think Castle will be in a couple of years he'll be better. I think he's going to be a stud. But I think rookie, especially in Pop's system, and with Chris Paul a point guard, I think they're really going to rely on Paul and try and have him help the other young guys, and Victor really asserts himself to be dominant, which is that's why I switched to Edey for my pick.
I'm going to go with Steven Castle. I know that he's a really phenomenal player, especially offensively, scoring the basketball, and I feel like he can definitely lift up his expectations of being the Rookie of the Year.
Agreed. I like it.
So let's move to want to do most improved player?
Let's do it.
Okay. I'll go first this time, and I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey.
I dig it. Would be tough. Who won it last year? Do you remember? I was trying to think of that, but I forgot to look it up.
I forget.
Because he was close to winning it last year if he didn't. But he's going to get a lot better. He's going to probably average. I think he's going to average like 27, 28 points a game. So like he's definitely going to be in the mix. I don't even remember who I wrote down. Oh yeah, I'm picking Victor Wembanyama to win this. I feel very good about that one. I think he's going to be sensational. I don't think the Spurs are like a playoff team or anything, but I think they're going to win 30-some games, and I think Victor is going to be just an absolute force on both ends of the floor. And I think Chris Paul is going to help get him a lot of easy looks, and I think Popovich is going to start to really unleash him and let him do a thing, play heavier minutes, and like really just take over ball games. So I'm really excited to see Victor have a huge year, and I think he's winning most improved.
Mm-hmm. I searched the MIP from last year, and it was Tyrese Maxey.
Was okay, nice.
Yeah. So let's move to the defensive player of the year. I picked Rudy Gobert. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year, especially with the squad he is with, and he's a really deep performer, and I feel like he's going to have a phenomenal year.
I like it. I'm going with Bam Adebayo. Maybe part of that's just me wanting someone different. But I think Bam, he's a dominant force defensively. And I think if Miami, they could stay healthy throughout the season, I think their defense is going to be one of the best in the league. And Bam Adebayo is a big reason part of that. So I think Bam finally gets a Defensive Player of the Year because he's always one of the top candidates.
So let's go to the Coach of the Year. For this one, I picked Chris Finch.
I like it.
Yeah.
Another bias pick for me coming in, but I'm going with Taylor Jenkins. I try to pick Coach of the Year based on who I think is going to finish high. And I mean, I just think it's going to be a lot of same teams, and I think the Grizzlies have the narrative where if they finish near the top of the West, Ja's going to get a lot of credit, but I think Taylor Jenkins will get a lot of credit. And I think he's got a good chance to win it, so I'm going with Taylor Jenkins. I think the Grizzlies have a big year.
So we are moving along to Rookie of the Year.
We already did rookie. I think we're just at MVP.
Oh yeah, MVP. Yeah.
And pretty sure we have the same guy.
Yep, we do.
Awesome. You want to say who we picking? I was kind of surprised you picked this guy.
Yeah, just knowing how well he performed, and I feel like he's going to continue what he did last season. And my pick is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I agree. I love it. I think Shai's going to have a huge year. It's tough not picking Jokic, but I do think the Nuggets could struggle a little bit. Or not struggle, but I think relatively. I don't know if they're going to win as many games as OKC. And so I think that really opens the path to SGA winning MVP because we saw, Boston will be dominant again, but I don't think Tatum can win an MVP. And there's always Giannis is always top of the list, but I think it's going to be a huge Dame season. So I'm interested to see kind of how that mix works. And will the Bucks be a great regular season team? Who knows? I don't think Embiid plays enough games. So I think the path there for one of these new young guys to win MVP, and I think Shai has to be the top of that list. And Anthony Edwards is another guy I think could win it, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander I think is going to be our MVP.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see how Oklahoma City does this year, especially with him. It should be fun watching them this year.
I'm so excited for them because they really didn't lose any key guys, and they added Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein to an already loaded roster. So it's going to be crazy to see lineups they put out.
And they have Giddey.
They lost Giddey because they traded him.
That's right.
But Giddey hasn't been that good of a player, and he didn't really play much in playoffs, so I don't think that's much of a loss.
Mm-hmm. So I think we got everything.
We did. We just have the playoffs, conference finals predictions.
Oh yeah. I have the same teams picked for each conference as you.
The same top 8?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll just go ahead and say my top 8, and then you can chime in if you have any big differences on seedings.
Okay.
Sweet. So let's just go into East first. This is my order, then Alex's might be a tiny bit different, but we have the same 8 teams. I had the Celtics first, the Cavaliers second, the Bucks third, Knicks fourth, Sixers fifth, Magic sixth, Miami Heat seventh, and then the Indiana Pacers eighth. That's just where I went at. I think those are the best 8 teams. I was just trying to think from perspective. I'm interested to see where the Hawks go. The Raptors are always a team that interests me, but I just don't think they're on that level. I don't think really any surprise omissions from us, but I think those are teams in the East. The Magic are a team I'm most excited and interested for. They pushed the Cavs to 7 last year, but how will they look, and will they be able to repeat the success and stay out of the play-in? I think is going to be tough, but I'm really excited to see what they do.
Yeah. Just thinking about it, I think I'm going to go with Celtics, Bucks, Cavs, Knicks, Sixers, Heat, Magic, Pacers.
Nice. I like it. I'm trying to think. I remember looking last night. I feel like I'm missing shouting out a team that's going to be close. I think the Bulls are going to be decent. And then there's a few teams in the bottom that really aren't in the picture that much. But there was another team right on the edge I wanted to shout out, but I can't remember. But yeah, I think those are the 8. I feel really confident about those 8. I feel good about them. I think those are going to be our playoff teams. Then,
so for the West, you have. I'll let you say who you got.
Sweet, go for it. I'll say my 8, and then you can any differences you have. But I feel good about my 8 in the West as well. I have OKC at 1, Minnesota 2, Memphis 3, the Denver Nuggets at 4, Phoenix Suns 5. The Los Angeles Lakers at 6, the Dallas Mavericks at 7, and the Sacramento Kings at 8. The 8 spot in the West was very tough. Also, determining the order is kind of tough. It's going to be so close like last year, so you can't get mad at 1 through 6 or whatever. But like it's gonna be super close. But the Kings at 8, I feel good. I like the DeRozan pickup, and I think they can win a play-in situation and get to that 8 seed.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Sacramento could be a lock at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the 7th seed.
You like them even a spot higher? Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you have? I'm really curious. Who in my top 7 do you have not? Who are you dropping below Sacramento?
I would say Phoenix.
Phoenix. Phoenix is tough for me. I could see them being a little low in the regular season, but I do like some of the moves they made this offseason. Tyus Jones. I like Ryan Dunn from Virginia as well. I think he plays a good role for them. So it's so hard to predict how a season goes. And with the play-in dynamic has changed things a lot because these teams are pushing for those top 6 really hard. But it's super excited, and I feel good about these 8 teams a lot. And there's a couple of teams right outside the edge. I still think the Clippers are going to be decent. I think the Warriors are going to be solid. I think Warriors will probably play in team at the 9-10 spot again. It's just going to be a gauntlet out west. Houston's probably going to be decent again. Like it's not going to be easy in the Western Conference, that's for sure. And then the Pelicans made the play last year. I believe the Pelicans were the 8 seed last year. Like it's going to be tough for the Pelicans to not make the playoffs. So like it's going to be hard on these teams. Like the older teams, like the Lakers have made the play in the past couple of years and won some series, but like eventually they're going to have to start like really pushing themselves for that top 6 because there's a lot of younger teams who are going to be able to go harder in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to our conference finals and NBA finals selections.
Sweet.
So I guess you can go first, and then I'll go second.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll just say my conference finals, and then you could say your conference finals, and then we'll both say our NBA finals. Does that work?
Okay. Yeah.
Sweet. So in my Western Conference, I had Oklahoma City beating Memphis in the conference finals. And then in the East, I have the Milwaukee Bucks beating the Boston Celtics in the conference finals. Feel good about both of those matchups. OKC, I just love what they did. I think last year their playoff experience, I think they'll be able to handle it a little bit better this year, and they add some more pieces, so I think they're in a really good situation to succeed. And the Grizzlies, they just have a loaded roster, and I think the bracket will break where they can have an opportunity to win a couple series.
So for me, for my conference finals picks for the West side of the bracket, I have Timberwolves over OKC. And for the East side, I have Celtics over the Knicks.
Sweet. I like it.
And I have in the NBA finals, I have Minnesota beating Boston.
I like it. And then my NBA finals, I have the Bucks beating OKC. I feel like I've picked Milwaukee a lot the past couple years. I just love their stars. I think Giannis and Dame are a great fit. I'm really interested. Just Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, like those guys are older dudes. Like, do they have what it takes to be studs over a whole playoff postseason? They're pretty good. I mean, Bobby Portis, like they have the lineup, the guys. They're not super deep, but like they have the pieces if they're healthy to make a run in the playoffs. I think they do. Dame and Giannis are super exciting. I hope those two are healthy this year, and I think they can go all the way if they are.
So our last segment of the show, we are resuming another bits of the episode segment, like what we did last season, and we'll do this every episode, starting with this one, and we'll do five NBA games for this episode. And I was the one that picked them, and let's see how many we get right.
Let's go.
So I'm trying to pull it up.
Sounds good. I have it up, so I can go ahead and just give my 5 picks real quick while you do that.
Okay.
Awesome. So Knicks at Celtics. I'm gonna pick the Celtics to beat the Knicks, and then with Bucks at Sixers, I'm gonna go with the Bucks. And then OKC at Denver. I'm gonna pick Denver. Wolves at Kings. I'm gonna go with the Wolves. And then Suns at Lakers. I'm gonna go with the Lakers to win.
Okay. I'm going to select. I'm going to pick Boston to beat the Knicks. I'm going to pick the Sixers at home to beat Milwaukee. I'm going to pick Oklahoma City Thunder to beat Denver. I'm going to pick Minnesota to beat the Kings, and the Lakers to beat the Suns.
All right, I like it. We have a couple of differences, so we'll see who comes out on top. These are 5 fun games. Opening week, they always have a ton of great action, so I'm really excited to see how these matchups go.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a movie for sure.
Definitely,
So,
awesome episode. It's just we still got a week, so we still gotta keep it cool. We still have some preseason basketball the next couple of days though, so I'll be interested to kind of tune in for that. But just an exciting NBA season is coming, and it's always so much drama and enjoyment, and I can't wait.
definitely, for those who have watched this episode, definitely be on the lookout for our next scheduled episode. I'm not sure when yet, but we'll definitely be in contact to schedule something in the coming week or two. And I'm excited to have NBA back.
Yes, sir. Let's go.